Hello and welcome to Hanging with Hero. Hi, Jennifer.
Hello, Aaron. How are you?
I'm doing great. What a wonderful joy it is to do our eighth episode of Hanging with
Eighth.
Hero. Yeah,
And you're
and
not
it's such
sick of
an
me
honor.
yet. Sweet.
Definitely not. Just the opposite. It's such an honor to host these discussions with you. A lot of fun.
Yeah. It is fun. It is fun. We live too far apart, so it's nice to connect this way.
True. It's kind of our form of Facebook, maybe. Like I
I
still
guess
have my East
so.
Coast friends on Facebook, but you and I, we get to do this wonderful show together. So.
Yeah. It's awesome. It's awesome.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. I see a lot of you who have joined before in the comments. We really appreciate you tuning in and checking this out. The show is a lot of fun to do. It really does celebrate the industry. It celebrates all of you stampers, and it celebrates so many aspects of this industry that, man, I just really enjoy being a part of. As I mentioned, this is our eighth episode. Jennifer and I started with kind of a history, and then we went and spoke with Tim, Gina K, Christina and Kathy Z.
Yeah.
We talked with Kelly and Greg, Ralph Tyndall. We talked with Alt New, and now we have two more wonderful guests to join us. Crafty friends. It's great having so
Yes.
many. We have so many episodes. Uh,
Yes.
Yeah, and I really count these two who are going to join us tonight as friends who have a lot to share, and I think that we have a
Yes.
lot of great ideas to talk about. Before we get there, I just want to kind of start like I typically do by kind of celebrating the industry because so much has changed in 50 years, and I think that's kind of been a focus. We've kind of gone over the decades. Hero's 50th anniversary, really the industry's 50th anniversary. Also, so much has stayed the same, and I think we're going to celebrate that tonight. Um, Mike has an image he's going to put up for us that kind of goes to the idea of kind of how much has changed. Because as you know, we've talked about uh, even starting with the first episode with Tim, talk about how woodblock stamps kind of dominated the scenery of the industry. Really, there wasn't anything else. There weren't dyes yet. There were stencils, but they were not really in our industry. Certainly wasn't clear sets yet, the way they are now. Not the number of colors, the number of inks, the number of mediums that we have. That doesn't mean there wasn't wonderful creativity, and that doesn't mean that there wasn't so much that we think of today. Now, of course, that era in the 80s and 90s, there wasn't e commerce, there wasn't YouTube, there wasn't the same kind of ability to do things like even you and I are doing today, Jennifer, on this show. There
Yep.
wasn't live broadcasts and feeds, uh,
Right.
and and a lot of it was store based. There's still exceptional stores out there, and I encourage everyone to visit. But really, that was our industry. In
Yeah.
fact, um, I was just at a retailer show in Las Vegas. And again, it's a kind of behind the scenes thing that used to be such a big part of a manufacturer like Hero Arts, going to all these trade shows, visiting with your retailers, visiting with your buyers. And I just did that in Vegas. And it just reminds me how different this industry is
Yeah.
today and how much it's also, in so many ways, stayed the same in wonderful ways. Um, so the image that I was going to talk about was it showed 1993 kind of wall of stamps that we would sell
Look
to
at
retailers. We'd
that.
bring this to our show. This is what we would show,
Yeah.
right? Arch Over Stamps. It's even a kind of a precursor to our logo of today, right? This is
Yeah.
1993. And look at the row of bottles there. It was like Prisma glitter and embossing powder, along
No
with
way.
pens and pencils. Yeah, those were the techniques of the day, which I find so
Wow.
funny. Not that you can't get those today, of course, but that was kind of the cool things that you did with stamping. Also notice, and this is something that I haven't pointed out yet, that a retailer in Las Vegas told me that I should talk about. And that is that early in the industry, all stamp tops were black and white because the technology involves stamping on top. We would literally run the
Uh,
rubber and then take one of those and we'd stamp on top. And that would be in black, maybe in brown,
ah,
but it would be in black in most cases because it was crisper that way.
so it wasn't a label.
No, it was initially
Okay.
all stamped. Uh,
Wow.
and then the technology changed and labels came in because then you could put branding on, you could put the item number because people would often say, well,
Yeah.
what's the name of this stamp? Or what's the item?
Yeah.
How do I tell my friend which to buy other than describe it? So then we started putting these
Wow.
wraparound labels on and we could do full color. And I don't know if all of you in the audience remember what Tim said. Tim Holt said that he worked at Richards. And while his first stamp was a Hero Art stamp, it was the bane of his existence that those were full color tops.
Yep.
People would come in and say, "Hey, the stamp is broken." And he would say, "Why is it broken?" He said, "Well, it doesn't stamp with these colors." And he'd be like, "Well, what color ink did you use with them?" And so, because it was such a new industry, people didn't know that the stamp didn't stamp those multiple colors.
Right.
And so, eventually, even today, if you find Hero Art stamps, almost all of them are back to black and white because we don't want to lead you to have to use it a certain way.
Yeah. Yeah.
We want to use kind of the design. Again, my wife, Laura Ackerman, is the designer of the company. So we want her designs to be
Yep.
used by you and other creative people in any way you want, not restricted by
Yep.
the color that we've chosen for you. And so even in wood stamps, it's this amazing evolution of things, very
Wow.
different and yet stayed the same. Here's
Wow.
the things that seems to have stayed the same that I noticed in Vegas and today. One is community. It's always been about community from day
Yep.
one. It's always been about seeing people and talking with people and sharing and doing things together. Like you and I, Jennifer, spending time together. It's on this call with all of you in the comments. It's just wonderful to do that.
Yep.
And I mean, yes, in the end, we all stamp and enjoy the industry, but it's spending time together too.
Yep.
Two is creativity, right? That creativity is really what people I think yearn in their lives. For me, you know, anxiety is
Mm-hmm.
lessened. Kind of the noise of the
Yep.
day and work is quieted, and crafting and creating together, even better, really is such a wonderful elixir. Third is classes. Classes have evolved, of course. They used to
Yep.
be in stores, and now you can tune in like this live online.
It's
You
crazy.
can still go, yeah, you can still go in stores and do that. But there's just so much content that you can find that we can all do together. And then finally, card making, right? Paper crafting, mixed
Yep.
media. Those things have evolved, of course, with different tools, but it was always, hey, here's something new, let me try it. And I think
But we're
that leads us
sticking
to,
around.
right. And finding 50 years on that innovation, creativity, new things to do, they're coming every week. It's
Yep.
not like we're running out of ideas. It's not like there's some limited resource. And so 50 years is that evidence. And so I
Yep.
think it's kind of a wonderful tribute to the industry that 50 years on, we're still finding creative ways. I see new card ideas. I see new techniques almost every day, it seems, in our
Yeah.
industry. And that
Yep.
really is a tribute to that. So, what comes first, the stamp or the card? I don't think we have to answer that question, but that's a good question. Obviously, designs get created, and then card makers influence how all of
Yep.
us do it. I think
It's
it's
a
as
cycle. Yep.
innovative. Yeah, it is. So the things that you do, Jennifer, in your videos, I think inspire people in the same way that my wife designing a new stamp inspires people.
Inspires me. Yep.
Yeah. And so I think it's this wonderful synergy that our industry has built, which naturally leads us to our guest tonight.
Yay.
Uh, yes, because we have two creators, two card makers, two crafters, two innovators who really spend their days crafting. spend their
Yep.
days taking advantage of all this wonderful industry that we have, all these different companies, different perspectives, different stamps that get developed, all the different formats from dies to stencils. And so I am honored to introduce from the Hero Arts creative team and from creative team experience from many different companies as well, Lydia and Seeka. Please join us.
Hi, friends.
Hey. Hi, y'all. Thanks for having us.
Yes. And let us know, now that we have all four on, as people start talking, let us know if we need to adjust any volumes to get us all on
That's
the
never
same
been a
level.
problem my entire life, but if it is tonight, so be it.
Yeah. Well,
Mm.
so wonderful to have both of you. I can't wait to delve into how you got inspired your first time as a crafter or a card maker and hear your backgrounds. That really led you to where you are as a crafter today. Before we start that, again, thank you all for joining us. It's wonderful to see you in the comments. If you have any questions for Seeka and Lydia or Jennifer and I, ask them anytime you like. And we're just excited that you've joined us tonight. All right, Lydia, so tell us about your background that kind of allowed your first experience with card making or stamping or crafting that really got you inspired and excited to say, you know what, maybe this is a fun thing that I really want to do as a career.
That is a great question. First, I just have to say I was tricked into coming here because I thought we were talking about true crime, so I'm just going to put that out there.
It's true.
But
We'll weave that in.
um but I started stamping when I think I was 15 years old. And my mom, we had like this tiny craft store that carried Hero Art stamps. And I bought a wood block rubber stamp, embossing powder, which is the gateway drug to all the things.
Absolutely.
And but there was no heat guns back in the mid to late 1900s when I started stamping. So my mom and I took the embossing ink and the embossing powder and the pre-cut cardstock and this one single stamp home, and we heated up the embossing powder over our gas stove. Do not recommend, 0 stars.
No.
I'm just saying
Yeah.
don't do this at home. But you were talking about how much everything has changed. The
Yeah.
tools that we all use have changed so much that we were literally just trying to find a heat source in the house to do this magical embossing with. And it really was one of those things in my life where I was like, nothing's ever going to be the same after this. After I saw that gold embossing powder melt on
Yeah.
that paper, nothing was literally ever the same in my life. Like, it
Yeah.
determined a track that I am still on, undisclosed number of decades later, and it still brings me so much joy and, like you said, Aaron, so much, like, peace and quiet from everything around us that I would not trade that for anything I have.
Hmm. Well said. I think
So what
that's
is your Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
going, Jennifer.
No, I was curious if Lydia, can you tell everybody like what's your job and like all that kind of stuff?
Well, my primary job is I'm the community manager of Split Coast Stampers. I've been there since 2010, but I've
Hmm.
actually been on the site since 2004. It was the original social media before there was social media. It was where
Mhm.
people shared their cards, and we had challenges, and we had Julie Ebersole before y'all knew who Julie Ebersole was. And it was just like this fun gathering place for people who were stamping. And I eventually went to work there as the community manager and site manager and all of that. So that's what I do. And I also design, obviously, that's what we're talking about tonight. I am a designer And I do work with craft manufacturers I do email marketing, I do a number of things with people who are connected to the industry in a bunch of different ways. So I've been lucky enough. I had many past lives in other industries and was super excited to be able to start working full time in the craft industry in, God, 14 years ago.
Whoa.
Scary to think about. But I also just personally am an artist. I mean, that's how I introduce myself to people. I'm an artist first, and everything else comes after that. Um, and so that's what consumes 100% of my non-working time is creating, whether that's in my garden or whether it's on my desk making a card or watercoloring or whatever. It's literally the biggest pillar in my life is art.
Hmm.
I like it.
That's amazing.
Yes, it
That
is.
is.
And if you haven't visited Split Coast, definitely do it. It's a wonderful community. I strongly recommend it. It's something that's been a mainstay in the industry, like you say, Lydia. I just remember like Gina K on YouTube was
Yes.
such an outlier too, and Split Coast. Those were kind of the,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flickr. Maybe Flickr came along,
Flickr.
right?
Yeah. I've known Gina for so long. Like we were just babies when we met. And it's so much fun just to watch all of that come out of like a really, really bad technological age back then. I
Yeah.
mean, things evolve so fast now. We have all these great like sharing tools and, video tools, and we have TikTok and we have all that. But Gina was doing all of this before it was a thing. Like we had
Yeah.
to work so hard to create videos in 2009. Like I could somebody could base a therapy practice on what it took me to create a video in 2009. and and Gina was just there doing it well, for more than a decade. So, it's pretty
Yeah.
impressive to watch.
Yep.
And Catherine asks, how did Split Coast get its name?
That is a great question. So it was originally started by a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator's husband, who was a developer, and she had team members on both sides of the country. She was a very successful demonstrator. So he
Hmm.
created the community to connect her team on both coasts. And that's what I'm saying. It was in 2004. It was long before social media existed. And he created this incredible community because that's what he did for a living. He was like at the beginning of tech. But then they opened it up to, other people, other brands. We had our member companies, we had Unity, we had MFT, we had Gina, all of these people gathered there. And that's where we shared because nothing else existed. Facebook didn't exist, nothing. So it was really like this small thing for his wife, and it turned into this huge online
Wow.
community. We have daily challenges still every day. We had the Dirty Dozen design team, like I said, Julie Ebersole, some of these names that are just like a given now. Those designers started by uploading their first card to Split Coast.
Wow.
And so it's been such a fun thing to watch and just kind of grow older with as these other social media sites develop. It's really fun to watch. I know time moves on and people forget like how it was, but I'm old, so I can talk about how it was. And yeah, it was just a fun, thriving community, and I'm so glad to have every connection that I have from there. Like I can't imagine what my life would be like if I had never met Gina, if I'd never met Kim, if I never met any of these people. It's just magic.
Hmm. Yeah, that's beautiful. I
It's
feel the
like
same way. I mean, I
beginning
really
of the
feel the same way.
community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of the
And I think,
online community. It really was.
and you did see that community as kind of the decade got into the early 2010s as stores started to really close
Yeah.
because Amazon asserted its dominance and e-commerce became a very important part of our industry and the way people bought things. I think that uh, did take a toll on stores, and so places
For
like
sure.
Split Coast became so important to have that community. So well done to you and to the team, and like you say, I also can't imagine not having that
Yeah.
wealth of creativity. A couple of questions people have asked. Yes, I do. I got COVID when I was in Vegas. I think I'm over it. I actually tested positive um, a few days ago, but negative this morning. But I still don't feel great. I mean, you always bring something back from Vegas, right? And and so
That's
thank you.
probably the best thing to
Yeah.
bring back of all the other
That was
options.
very PG.
Right. So yeah. So I'm definitely on the mend, although I still have a cough. And I was telling everybody behind the scenes, if I do start sneezing, I sneeze like a rabbit. So it's like 5 or 6 in a row, like little short ones. So I'll try to mute if I do that. But it's my family. Yeah, they tease me about it, which is worthy of teasing me about it. And second thing is, I just wanted to say that one time, your story, Lydia, about embossing, we actually put in the catalog that same year, 1993, where I showed those stamps. We put in the catalog, if you don't have a heat gun, you could try a toaster. And one of our lawyer friends read it and was like, "What are you doing? Take that out."
It's so
So we were like,
bad.
"Yeah, so bad." So definitely do not do that at home. We could have gotten in big trouble. Luckily, nobody hurt
But
themselves.
at the
But
store at the time, they're just like, go home with this stuff and figure it out.
right, yes, there
And a
you couldn't
hair
just go
dryer does
watch the
not
YouTube.
work.
No, a
No,
hair dryer does not. A hair dryer just means you'll have embossing powder all over the room.
right, yeah. So for sure, yeah. So
I
well,
never
thank you,
take my
Lydia.
heat gun for granted, for sure.
No, no.
Do you have a backup heat gun?
Do I what?
Do you have a backup heat gun?
Oh, of
All the like
course I
cruise
do.
people
I'm
never
not
have a backup.
insane. Yes. Always have a backup heat gun.
Gotta have a
Same.
backup. You
Same.
heard it here. Don't use your toaster. Just have a backup heat gun. Okay,
Amen.
good rules to live by. Seeka, so tell us how you first got involved in stamping and kind of where you were in your life that led you to, your background, schooling, anything like that you want to share that maybe kind of gives us insight into how you were receptive to creativity, stamping in this wonderful community we're all part of now.
Yeah, I am not a I'm not a creative or artistic person. That is a narrative I think that I grew up with,
Mm,
and I came to stamping in 2017, so I still feel really new. I work by day in digital, so I'm a principal product manager for digital products like online tools and websites and mobile apps. So I'm always working digital. I'm always looking at screens, and I'm always working on really like long running projects. And in 2017, maybe towards the end of 2016, um, I was really looking to do something with my hands and just get away from a computer and do something that was not like a huge project and something small. And I found my way to actually Christina Werner's videos, who I know is a friend of Heroes, and then was doing some hand lettering. And then one day I caught a video, and she was making a card with stamps, but somehow the stamps were clear. She was using like this tool. I'm like, I don't like. How is that a stamp? Stamps are woodblock stamps, right? And so I missed the whole transition to photopolymer. And then in that video, she said, "Oh, and my friend Jennifer McGuire." And I was like, "Who's Jennifer McGuire?" And I found Jennifer's videos. And so for a while, I was really like just fascinated with Jennifer's videos, Christina's videos, and then also Amy Rasavi's videos because she puts out videos like almost every day, at least at that time. And in one of Amy's videos, she mentioned, and I think she still does, the color throwdown challenge. And I was like, what's a challenge? What's a blog? And I wanted to do a challenge. And the path of least resistance to getting a photo online that I could share with the challenge was to create an Instagram account. And my first Instagram post, I used a Hero Arts product. It was the Love, it was a Scripty Love stamp and cut. And I used that along with an Entangled stamp and I think some oxide inks or something like that. Um, and I'm pretty sure it was Tammy at Hero Arts, but she commented on that post almost immediately. And I was like, it just kind of blew my mind that that anyone had seen it because I was really only on Facebook at that time personally. And it was neat that Hero Arts had seen it and commented and left like an encouraging comment, and that kind of it just was very exciting. And so I kept posting, and I think my first year I did this in my mind. I was like, I'm going to post a card a day, and I got to 100 days, and I was like, well, why stop at 100? I might as well go for a year. So I did a card a year, and not always or card for every day for a year. And it wasn't, they weren't all complex or anything, but it just was something that I wanted to do with my hands. And so that's
Nice.
how I got started. In my first in-person event, and this is when we were talking about community, my first in-person event was Kathy Rakusen's Coloring Road Trip Challenge that she did at Hero. And after that, I was hooked, and I went to a number of her events, and was like, I hope you don't mind, but I'm just going to follow you around the country and go to different spots. And so it was really nice to see the same folks over and over, and to meet people who I've met on Instagram, to meet them in person and make those connections. And so over time, there are people that I meet that have just become friends to me, even though or even if we only interact online. It's just a really nice way to connect with people that you might not otherwise ever meet in your entire life. So it's wonderful
Yeah.
that way. Yeah. And speaking of Prismaglitter, I found an old bottle of Prismaglitter with a 1989 date on it. So at some
What?
point when I was in like junior high or high school, I bought a bottle of Prismaglitter, and I still have it. And it's a glass bottle. I couldn't find it last night. I was digging around for it. I know I have it, but I thought it was so interesting that it happened to be Hero Arts. And Hero Arts, I didn't learn until like a year after I started stamping, is like 9 miles up the road from me. So I'm very close to where Erin is.
I want
Yes.
to be your roommate.
Yes.
And a lot of
It's
people are
wonderful.
asking Seeka the cat's name. We should have warned you at the beginning. When you're on a call with Seeka and Lydia, chances are there will be a cat.
You're getting cats.
There's going to be cat everywhere. So, Seeka, what's the name of the cat that was on screen? People are asking.
His name is Nina. I didn't know he was a boy when I named him, but his name is Nina. His sister is Simone. I love the singer, so that's why his name is still Nina, even though he's a boy.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I have a boy cat. I have a girl cat that I thought was a boy that we still call he. We're like twinning.
He doesn't mind.
No.
No idea.
So he's
They don't
really
care.
nice to me. I feel like the positive energy in Crafty online things is so strong. He always comes and wants to like hang out with the Crafty friends. So
Yep.
yeah.
Nice.
That's fun. I really do think that this episode should be the cat episode. We'll call that
Oh yeah.
going forward.
Except
Yeah.
Jennifer's allergic, so
But she's
I'm
safe.
out.
It's online.
It's online, so luckily
Yeah.
it won't create sneezing for you. Um, the teen reference. It's funny. The teen magazine was something that Sally Tradman, who was a longtime influencer for Hero Arts many years ago, got into teen magazine. And again, back in the day, in the 80s and the 90s, magazines were everything. I mean, TV, but that was nearly unreachable for any small business to be involved in. But magazines, if you could get in a magazine, and Teen Magazine was widely distributed and read. And Sally Tradman got this. I think was it 3 or 2 small woodblock hearts in a little set, and Prismaglitter. And
Wow.
those two were featured as this new card making craft craze. And we, for a decade later, would sell those two items. Everybody wanted the pink Prismaglitter and that set of hearts, woodblock hearts.
Who was on
So
the cover? Was it Scott Baio? Who was on the cover?
maybe, probably, yeah. I
For
don't actually
camera.
remember that, but
That's funny.
yeah, that
Sally would
That's
that would
remember.
wild.
that would be consistent. Yes. All right. So in addition to cats, I would love to hear more about creative teams. This episode kind of it's just a wonderful celebration, I think, because both Seeka, just being 9 miles away, it's wonderful to see you when you drop by Hero Arts headquarters, and Lydia are on the Hero Arts creative team. So many companies in this industry thrive with creative members. That reference that I made back to my wife designing a stamp and then a card being made out of it. What comes first, the stamp or the card? I think that there is this synergy. There's this beauty in the way we do things. And we can go through our process. But one of the things, for example, that a creative team member does, that Seeka and Lydia provide to Hero Arts and other companies, is we design new products. And then they take their unique vision and create cards with them, create samples, create mixed media projects, do different things using maybe a host of old stuff, a host of new stuff, maybe embossing in the microwave oven or the toaster oven. Probably not, but you different colors. All that really comes down to Seeka, Lydia, and the rest of the Hero Arts creative team coming up with their own unique vision of how to translate that. And I think that's such a wonderful part of our industry, and maybe something that's a little hidden to people. So today, let's talk more about that. I'd love to hear kind of your experiences, both of you, on creative teams, the Hero Arts creative team that you're on now, but other companies, kind of how that's evolved over time, how you got on these teams. I'm assuming there's questions about that because I've seen that in the past. How do you get involved with companies if you're just starting out? How do you get noticed, like Seeka did by Tammy? And where does that go? So, why don't we start? Those are a lot of questions. So, why don't we start? Seeka, when did you decide that you wanted to try to be on a creative team, and kind of what was the first one that you applied for and got?
Yeah, it was not something I set out to do because I work full time, so I create at night. I think that for me, it was just a matter of being out there on Instagram, following people, posting. I posted a lot that first year. I used a lot of different companies' products. And I remember, I think it was Concord and Ninth was the first company that asked me to guest design, and then
Right?
Alta New. So I still do a lot of kind of guest designing. I'm on a couple of teams, but it wasn't really anything I set out to do. And I will say that the one or two companies where I applied that had an open call and applied, I didn't get. So
Hmm.
it was the companies who just happened to be seeing me, right? So the algorithm just happened to feed my stuff to them, and you might have seen what they liked. Maybe it was a good card day. I don't know. And I think just kind of putting yourself out there and not being shy and playing. I think that's the important thing. And I suspect, I don't know if it's always true, but I suspect that having that play and that joy of creating, having that energy go into your projects, I think
Hmm.
people can see it. Maybe I like to think that anyway, right? If you're joyful when you're creating something and you're having fun, I think it comes through in the finished product, and hopefully people can see that. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Wonderful. Um, what about you, Lydia? What kind of creative teams have you applied for or gotten or are part of?
Well, I started on Teams before social media. So
Mm.
I back then there were design team calls, and most of them were on split coast stampers. So you would find a company that matched your style. The very first team I was on was this really like whimsical, fun team called Starving Artist Stamps. And it had like these cute little monsters and this kind of comic book thing that really appealed to me. I always say my style is clean and quirky. I really love quirky. And I was with her for many, many years. But and Jennifer and I have had this conversation, so I'll just and a lot of people that know me have had this conversation, so I'll say this. What's really important is that you create for you. So I have a style and it takes a while to find your style. Like I really love people who create beautiful vintage things and I'm terrible at it. So it's not my style, but I kind of admire it from afar. And as time went on, I figured out I'm like a clean and quirky stamper and I'm also a mixed media
Mhm.
person. And so you kind of find those things and you do those things that make you really, really happy when you do them and you feel like you're good at them and you feel like you're successful and you gain skill and all of that. And you do that part first. And then what happens is the companies that have the products that match your style, if you're in those spaces like Seeka was, if you're on Instagram or if you're, on Split Coast before social media or whatever, and you're creating in that like authentic you, joyful style that you have, those people will see you and they'll find you and they will seek you out. I think if you go into it saying, I want to work for Hero Arts, and so I'm going to force myself to use Hero Arts products in a way that I think they'll like, that's not going to be as good as if you say, I love XYZ by Hero Arts, and I'm going to make 10 things with it. I'm going to post them on Instagram because it made me happy. I think that's a better like path. Just looking back over, all the things that I've done, the things you're the happiest doing are the things you're going to get hired to do in any industry, not just crafting. So whatever you're really passionate about and good at and teach yourself, that's where you're going to go. So when I was at a retreat with Jennifer, the very first retreat I went to with Jennifer, that was when Hero Arts launched their kit way back. What was that, 2016?
Yeah.
And it was very different then, of course, because y'all were testing this kit thing out and you sent it to us to work with, and it was a poinsettia, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember making the card, I remember taking a terrible picture of it, all of it. And that I've never left. That's 8 years. I was like, I am in. These kids are amazing. But
Yeah.
it's because I loved it because it was fun. It wasn't because I was trying to do something that Hero Arts wanted. It's because I loved it and it was fun. So my advice is love it and have fun, and the other stuff will come with it.
Hmm. Yeah. That's great
I
advice.
agree.
I
100%.
I think
Yeah.
it's also interesting. Sorry,
I
um,
love that
that
guy so much.
um, in so I'm on another team where when they asked me if I wanted to join, it was a month after I had guest designed. I was like, I think this is a mistake. My style is so different from everyone else on the team. And when I guest designed that month, I had done really quite clean and simple cards. And so I was like, gosh, this is really weird. Are they like, is there another Seeka they meant to, to ask? And so I think it's true that some companies are looking for a very similar style, and some companies are just looking for anything that shows off the many different ways that their products can be used in the different styles and the different techniques. So I think what Lydia was saying about, just do you and do what makes you happy is really spot on.
And I think that's why companies have like we do. We have 18 members of our creative team, and then we have another group of global team members that are, represent different countries and different styles. And I think that's the beauty, is those different styles. And I think that if we had a selection criteria at Hero Arts, it would be exactly what both of you are articulating, which is be you. We want to see you come out of the samples that you make, the
Yeah.
products that you use. And we really want that kind of love and joy and personal style to be expressed through the projects that you do. A lot of it's cards at Hero Arts, right? Card making has kind of been the consistency of our brand for so many decades. But all styles of making are really appreciated. I see a lot of people in the chat saying that mixed media is hard for them, or maybe not their jam. And also quoting Tim Holtz, which I saw somebody do, you do you. And I
Yep.
think that is the best advice. It might not be somebody else's style, but it's your style. And for that
Yep.
reason, it's beautiful just the way it is. It's perfect in its personal aspect to you. And I think that's such a wonderful message. And when Hero Arts looks for design team members, we always want to encourage more and different kind of styles and approaches, techniques, etc. Like the first time that that I reached out to Jennifer was, we didn't understand scrapbooking, and Jennifer was doing scrapbooking and doing it beautifully. What was it, Hall of Famer?
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Same year as Kathy Zilski. Kathy just popped in. Yeah. Long time
Yeah.
ago.
yes,
I don't remember
yeah.
what year it was.
So what about you, Jennifer? How did you find your voice in this? Coming from engineering, of course, but really finding that joy in your art and your work that led you to be, influential in your own life and kind of creating projects and techniques and doing this full time.
Well, I I've said this on Hanging with Hero in the past, and Lydia just touched on it, but I really feel like a lot of the people who have found their way into a really happy career or on design teams as a side thing in this industry got there naturally. It wasn't something they set out to do. It just happened. I started scrapbooking as looking for a hobby. I didn't start scrapbooking and right away set out to make it a career. It just
Right.
happened. And I think that is the most important thing. You just kind of do your own thing, and if things are meant to, come in front of you, they will. I just shared my work. I think another big thing is just sharing it. Sharing it for the joy of sharing it, not in hopes of being found. So the joy of creating it in your own way, as you mentioned, and in the sharing of it. So I think the more you kind of do your thing, you do you, and share, then doors will open if that's the way it's meant to be. And I think so. I think a lot of it is just that sharing, and things will naturally happen.
Yeah, that's great. It's wonderful advice. Um, okay, so based on sharing, I want to talk about kind of the history of contests, because Hero Arts used to run a card contest before the days of social media being so advanced the way it is. And so many people have told us, including if you listen to the Alt New with Tasneem, the creator, she said that she entered a contest and actually won, and that was so inspiring to her that she decided to pursue a career. So I think those are important things. Let's talk about
Yeah.
sharing, because I think there are different ways to do it and how it's evolved. Before we do that, I just want to say um, a couple of announcements. So Hanging with Hero will continue after tonight. And people have asked in the past on these that I maybe tell them who's coming next and when it is so they remember. In 1 week's time, usually we skip a week, but just because of scheduling, 1 week from today, we are talking with Simon Hurley. So that'll be fun. Somebody with less experience than Lydia and I, for sure, in this industry, and still has a wonderful story to tell.
You just got me old.
And I think it's beautiful to, again, all the different kind of approaches and how people come into this industry. And Simon's got a great story to tell. And then in 2 weeks' time after that, so August 14th, again, always a Wednesday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, let's get into scrapbooking. And we have Heidi Swap is going to join us. And I think that she's also got a beautiful voice in the art and creativity and the journaling and scrapbooking that she has done for many decades in our industry. And she has kind of an impressive resume as well. So I'm excited for that and the series to continue. Also, with our Hanging with Heroes, we always have, in celebration of 50 years, we always have a promotion. And this week, for 24 hours only, we are having 50% off liquid watercolors. Liquid watercolors are an essential tool for anybody's crafting room. And our liquid watercolors just came back in stock after being out for a while. And so we thought we would share the love with all of you. So starting now on our website, you can get 50% off liquid watercolors for 24 hours only. We also, for all the people commenting, we have some great awards, which we will hand out in about 15 minutes. For scrapbook.com, they have sponsored us. Ranger has sponsored us, and then Hero Arts has 2 gift certificates to give away as well in celebration of these 50 years and all of you joining us and spending the time with us. So thank you for that.
And
all
those
right.
those aren't the last of the Hanging with Hero. Those are just the next 2.
Those are the next
We've
2.
got more coming. Yeah. Okay.
True. We're talking with a lot of people because it's wonderful to kind of get into this because we find different angles that people are interested in. Mm-hmm. And by the way, if you have any comments, suggestions, ideas for people you would like, please give us comments. I've seen a few, and thank you for posting them, but we'd love to hear any guest suggestions you have. Like last time, people suggested maybe we have 2 retailers, right? Because that's another part of our industry. That's something that we're working on. And, things like that. I think it's just wonderful to celebrate 50 years and really share the fact that we're all interconnected in this industry, and all of us, maybe from different angles, maybe from different positions in the industry, from, manufacturing to brands to influencers to creative team members. We all have a unique view, and I think for that reason it's worth hanging with Hero and talking about it. So again, thank you all for joining, and we wouldn't keep doing this if you didn't keep joining us, so we really appreciate all of you being here. Okay, so back to contests. Hero Arts back in the day used to run card contests, and man, we would get cards sent kind of like the way you described, Lydia, with split coast. That just was before the time you had trustworthy, photography even for your cards. So people had to send in their cards, physical cards. They had to send in. And we got, just a blizzard of joy, right? Beautiful projects, all different types. Our rule always was use whatever you have in your craft room. Try to make at least one of the products Hero Arts, ideally a stamp, just so that we can identify it. But that even wasn't a requirement. And it was just beautiful cards. There was a number of card winners, I remember, that had little to no Hero Arts on it. It was just such a beautiful card that we had to honor it. I remember one of the cards had personal stamp exchange stamps. And it was just so stunning that we were like, this is one of the best cards in this submissions. How you judge that, I don't know, to be honest. But our team of judges did, and it didn't matter. So it wasn't about product. It was just about that joy that you talk about, Seeka, that was just poured into those projects that came to us. And we printed it in our catalog, I think, in 1995, even, all the winners, and just a picture of all the cards that were submitted.
Yeah.
So it was a wonderful celebration of crafting. So did you guys participate in any of those contests at all? Not just Hero Arts, but others, or want to get involved beyond what you've already stated. But tell us what kind of any memories that you have of those events. Lydia, let's start with you.
Oh gosh, there are so many. That those are some happy memories because as you said, magazines were such a huge deal. I mean, I even still I get like a heart palpitation when my card's in a Hero Arts catalog, like a printed catalog. It's such a big deal, but over the years, Take 10, I got published in Take 10, just thought I was, gonna die. Originally started with split coast challenges, which were huge, and that they were for nothing. They were purely for inspiring creativity. There were no prizes, nothing, which I think makes it a little better because you're just competing against yourself, kind of, not really anybody else. Moxie Fab, I won a Moxie Fab challenge, which still was one of the best challenges ever on the internet, in my opinion. It was just so inspiring and so well done. I miss those a lot. Um, and I was telling Aaron before we came on that these are like all little highlights. I think because human beings just have a love of winning. We love any little win, even if it's small. So challenges do that for you. But one time I won a contest to design Martha Stewart's blog header. This is like way in the archives of the internet. I still have a picture of
Wow.
it. But it was an online contest where you just had to I just took pieces from her craft blog and put them together in a little header that spelled out crafts. Really so lame considering what you can do now. But it was just so much fun. Everything in the craft industry that's geared around just showing people how creative you can be is so inspiring to this day. There's nothing better than a challenge, I think.
Yeah.
Even if it's like some of the ones we have at Split Coast are like limited supply challenges, like Craft Roulette, where she has the criteria and you have to limit yourself to that criteria. And that can result in some of the best work you've ever done. And you don't even know what it is going into it. So those are always going to kind of be my favorite. I love, cards like that. Cause again, you're competing against yourself. It's not like some cutthroat, weird thing like Survivor. You're just trying to be creative in the way that someone else has defined. And I think that's really fun.
Yeah, that's great. Magazines were so dominant in the land.
Magazines.
Oh yeah.
I love
I mean,
magazines.
me too. I
I
miss
love
them. You used to
them.
go to stores and there'd be, a big section of wood
Yes.
stamps, big section
Yeah.
of inks, and a big, stand of all the different new magazines that were out. I
Oh,
mean,
heaven.
yeah,
I miss that so much.
And the
yeah,
special publications they would put out, oh,
Yep.
I would just pour all over those. I thought they
And
were
the
yeah,
great.
Stampington Where Women Create, incredible. I mean, a lot of these magazines still exist and I still subscribe to them, but it's just like when you get that magazine, you just
Yeah.
open it for the first time, you see whatever Tim Holtz was doing then, because that's how we found out what Tim Holtz's latest thing was in a magazine. I hate to tell
yep,
some of y'all that, but it was. There
yep,
would be a full page Tim Holtz ad where you found out what he
Yeah.
was doing next. That's how we
yep,
learned. It wasn't instantaneous at all. It was waiting for your Stampington magazine. And it was
Yeah.
so fun. Ranger dominated those magazines a lot of the time and just techniques and so
Yeah.
fun. I miss it.
yeah. No, me too. For sure. And again, like you said, there are many magazines that are still out there,
Yep.
well worthy of
Yep.
getting. Some of them are digital, but some of them are printed.
Yeah.
So I think they still have that kind of residual glow from the glory days when there were literally hundreds of magazines. Like you couldn't get
Oh yeah.
all the magazines.
Yeah.
And they all needed content.
Yep.
And so there were tons and tons of advertising and contests and card samples and articles. Uh, wonderful things. Jennifer, you were a big part of kind of a lot of what that industry was about in scrapbooking. And in some ways, it's just so wonderful to have that. And yet things have changed so dramatically because all those advertising dollars have gone away for the most part compared to what they were. And so our industry has evolved. But in some ways, those were the glory days.
Yeah. No mean comments on magazines. None.
No. Yeah.
Forgot
It's
about
true.
that.
I really missed out.
It's true.
I had started crafting a long, long, long time ago. Hearing you talk about the glory days, I'm like, oh man, I missed it all. But
Yeah.
these feel like glory days to me. Just I'm having so much fun with it.
It's
No,
just
I
different.
It's just different. Yeah.
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 I meant glory days for magazines. I don't think for the industry.
Yeah.
I think the industry has evolved in new ways. And so today is the glory days of kind of, I don't know, the explosion of innovation that I think that we have in color, in design, in mediums, and, wonderful companies. I don't think you had it better then than you do now. But for magazines, that was definitely the glory day. And for scrapbooking, probably.
Well, and education now is instantaneous. Like I probably saved 15 Facebook reels today. I'm not even kidding. Just like hit save. I want to come back to that. Like you have so much education available to you now that we did not have.
True. Yeah.
I remember back before, like we were doing YouTube videos much. We wanted a way to teach because Hero Arts, when I was working with Hero Arts, we would put together classes and kits that we would send to the stores and the stores would teach. And so it was a way to get Hero Arts in classes in different stores. Well, then we're like, okay, with some stores closing, what can we do? And so I remember Sherry Carroll and I put together a bunch of videos and we sold them on DVDs. Do you remember that, Erin?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
And so you could watch several videos on the DVD and you could buy the DVDs in stores or in the craft stores. So, you can see the different steps to get us to where we are today and trying to educate. It's definitely easier to educate now. You can learn so much more because reading the instructions in a magazine for a technique that involves like ink all over the place, it's hard to do. So to be able to see it, much different.
That is so funny you bring up those DVDs, Jennifer, because those were so popular. Like we couldn't press enough of them.
Yes.
And at the same time, our customer service had to be tech advisors. Like people like, where do I put the DVD?
I didn't know that.
We had a whole new set of questions.
While
and
they're
phone
connecting
calls.
to their dial-up internet.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
We had updates that you could download. And it was like, how do I do that? And there were store owners who would show that continuously. And they were like, we need Jennifer and Sherry to do like one a month. We were like, what are you talking about?
Yikes.
Yeah, it was because we couldn't travel to the stores. Like it was just too many and too much travel. So we would send these DVDs and they'd play them on a loop in the store.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
That
Times
and
have changed.
card samples. One of the things about stores is walking in, and I know everyone watching has had this experience. You walked into that store, you saw the card sample above that stamp, and you bought that stamp. You saw the card, you bought the stamp. End of story.
Right.
And somebody was making those cards. Somebody like us was making those cards and sending them to stores, and people were looking at them in real life and buying them. It's not that different. It's just, a different environment. But you make a card, you sell the stamp.
Again, so much has changed and so much stays the same.
Yeah,
I think it's really true. Cards sell stamps is what we always would say, and I think that's true today.
Yeah.
In fact, back in the day when Jennifer was making those DVDs, if it wasn't featured on that DVD, they would say, hey, this product's not selling. What do I do with it? And so we'd have to send them card samples, and then they'd be like, okay, great, that worked.
Yeah.
Because you had to put it up.
Yeah, and we have to shout out the people that are making the stencils and the stamps, because it starts there before it gets to Jennifer or me or somebody had this beginning creative idea.
Yeah,
It was probably very different from what we thought of it when it got into our hands, which is part of the
true.
magic of having people designing. But it
Yeah,
started with Ron, or it started with, somebody at Hero Arts making that, beautiful rock stencil or whatever. They
Right.
had the original idea, and then we just did something different with it. So shout out to all the product
yeah,
designers out there.
for sure, for
Right.
sure.
Well, and as you said, Seeka, you didn't consider yourself a creative person. Those people, like my wife, Ron and Robin on the design team, Manami, Yesenia from past years. I mean,
Yeah.
they're illustrators, right? They're trained graphic artists and illustrators. Although not everybody in our industry, like some people have a natural talent for drawing, and they get into the industry that way. And I do find that interesting that there are many illustrators and graphic artists that don't actually, do the card making side of things, and there are some who do it all.
Yeah,
And so it really that there's no right path, and there's no one path that you see in our industry. Like again, from alt new, uh, Tasneem said that she was a chemical engineer,
Hmm.
and yet she's the design director for Alt New,
yeah,
right? So you don't have to be like my wife, a trained graphic artist
yeah,
or illustrator to kind of make your way in this industry and create beautiful illustrations that eventually go to creative team members and get turned into the card projects that you see in blog posts and online. So Sika, contests that you've uh, kind of done, do you think we should do new contests going forward? Do you think that still makes sense with all the social media world that we have?
Well,
Or
I haven't done that. I haven't done that many. I did the color throwdown a couple of times. I think Simon
mm,
said Stamp had one as
Hmm.
yeah,
well. Um, and for me, because I'm an overthinker, and sometimes I don't know where to start if I can't see or visualize the end, it can be helpful to have some boundaries, right? For someone to say, use these colors. And then I'm like,
mm,
okay, at least I don't have to decide on the colors or use this layout. I find that to be really helpful. And then it's also kind of fun to be challenged in that way. It's kind of a puzzle, I guess. And I love puzzles. So I think for people who enjoy that and maybe need help getting started on a project, right, and don't want to think about that part of it, but just want to have a framework to work with and start with, they can be really great. So I don't remember. I don't. I guess it sounds like the hero one ended long, long, long before I ever came to card making, but they seem fun.
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, it's kind of, I think, as design team members, we kind of have that naturally, right? Because we'll get a release and we
yeah,
might get an assignment of use this product, and so in that way, we have a little challenge kind of baked into our month to month work, so that can be helpful too, because it can feel overwhelming if you are making maybe decisions all day at work or with the kids or at home or whatever, and you're I mean, I don't know about other people out there, but I get decision fatigue, and so if I have one
Sure.
less decision that I have to make, I love it. So
yeah,
Or you can be like me and you can do the Heroescapes. I think it was Lilac or something. I did it with Libby at a convention, and I did it upside down. And I was like, "But that's how I thought it was supposed to be." She was laughing at me. We were at the retailer table, and I'm making samples. She's like, "You know that's upside down, right?" I'm like, "No, I did not know that."
yeah. And and Hero Arts has the Stay Crafty challenge,
Mhm.
blog name Hero. So that's very much still going. If anybody wants to be involved, I encourage you to join, be a part of that. That's something that you can do. For Lydia and Seeka and the Hero Arts creative team, we have monthly releases, so they uh, sometimes take turns, sometimes all do the same project and create samples for the Hero Studio program that is coming up uh, the first Monday in August.
Yep.
You can see that launch. And then we also have catalogs. We have a new catalog coming out August 22nd, where you have card samples that are assigned to the creative team for, that's our holiday catalog, mostly holiday designs. And so you guys do have kind of your choices locked in as a member of the creative team. So maybe that takes some decisions away from you, CK. Use these stamps.
Right.
Yeah. And sometimes I mean, most of the time I like it. Sometimes it's hard,
Sure.
but it's a challenge and it's fun. And ultimately I get to play with my hands and I get to do something that I enjoy doing. So I think it just depends on what mindset I'm in for the day.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Sometimes you want to be challenged. You want to be assigned something that isn't immediately obvious to you what you should do with it. And sometimes you just are so inspired by the product that it's just a no-brainer for you. I do like to
Yeah.
be challenged though. I I really do. I think we get in creative ruts. I tend to gravitate towards certain mediums, gravitate towards certain colors, certain styles. And so every now and then that's the great thing about challenges and contests is it moves the needle for you a little bit, gets you outside of your box, try
Mm,
something new, you know.
yeah. Well, that's great. I love it. All right. So we've got a bunch of uh, different questions, which we'll get to in just a moment. Let me just
Yep.
say that thank you all again for joining us. It's just wonderful to spend a Wednesday with all of you. Wonderful questions, wonderful ideas and suggestions. Keep them coming. Really love it. And we just want to honor all of you. Wish you could all win. We do have a few giveaways to do. I think Mike has a graphic that Kelly and Shannon are in the. Yes, there it is.
Oh,
Look
Are
nice.
at that.
in the comments. And
Oh my gosh.
congratulations, everyone. Thank you to scrapbook.com and to Ranger Inc. for sponsoring all of these episodes. It's been wonderful to have them. For you winners, congratulations. I'm so happy that you joined us. For the people who got the Hero Arts gift cards, you also get the opportunity to give one of your friends a $25 gift card in addition to the $50 that you get, which is kind of the whole idea of this wonderful community we're a part of. And email info@heroarts.com to claim your prize. We'll forward it on to scrapbook.com and to Ranger Inc. and all that stuff. So email info@heroarts.com. Congratulations and thank you again so much for joining us. Okay, so some of the questions that we're getting in the comments is, what suggestions do you have for people who are just kind of starting off, wanting to get involved? Obviously, as we mentioned, a blog name Hero, you can get involved in the challenges. You can always use hashtags to post any of our monthly products like Hero Studio. When we launch, we always ask that you get involved too. If you subscribe and use they use the hashtag that's listed on your kits to save and post, because we look, and that's Tammy and the marketing team at Hero Arts who are looking at those comments, just like Seeka mentioned. We try to look at all the hashtags that you put together on Instagram or on Facebook, and really, because it's about recognition and it's about really honoring all the different styles. But in saying that, Seeka, what suggestions do you have for people if they want to maybe get more involved, maybe get noticed, maybe get on a creative team? What might you suggest?
And maybe it's because I don't know any better, but I still feel like the crafty people are on Instagram. So when I was looking for that community before I found Instagram, it's like I don't understand where everyone is. And I was looking locally for classes, but they're not really any stores anymore. And many of the local classes were demonstrations, and I was like, I don't want to have to buy anything. And so I found Instagram to just, it ended up being a wonderful place. And all I do is I look at cards and I look at cats and critters and animals. And that's all I do. That's all I do with my account. I don't need to look at all of the other stuff. I just want to look at creative
Yeah.
projects and cute things. And so when you're there, people will find you, people will follow you, and you will meet people. And I think just put yourself out there and engage when you can. Don't make it a job. Do it when you want to, but engage. And I recognize lots of names, people who comment on my cards, and I recognize their names immediately, even though I've never ever met them, and maybe have never even engaged with them outside of comments that they leave on my cards, and I just see them over and over. So that's a really nice way to connect with people.
That's how
Yeah.
we've met. All
I mean, I met all of you online, essentially, right?
Right.
Everyone I've met in the crafty industry has been because I happened to go on Instagram and Tammy happened to leave a comment, and I was like, oh my gosh, there are people here.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
I agree with Seeka about Instagram. I think the reason why sharing on Instagram is a good thing is it's a visual site. I mean, it's supposed to be photos, right? So photos of cards that you can quickly see, and then there's, reels that you can have. And if you follow enough card makers, then they start feeding you other card makers so you can find new suggestions of great if you kind of stay focused on card making and cats or card making and dogs. Everything in your feed will be those two things. So you can find new people. And then the hashtags, I know many companies follow the hashtags, like hashtag Hero Arts, hashtag Gina K Designs, and that's how they see things people create. And they have, almost every company I know has found a design team member via the hashtags. So, I mean, there are other places to share. Of course, YouTube's great too, but it's harder to get found on there than it is on Instagram. And listen, I'll tell you, the number of followers, like if you're discouraged because you have not many people following you, number of followers does not matter. It's the kind of content you put out and the kind of community you're building, like the good that you're adding. The follower numbers don't matter. They don't matter. If
They don't matter.
it just, number of likes means nothing. So I definitely would. Instagram is definitely a great place. I saw somebody ask also, how important is a blog? The reason I have a blog and I encourage people to have a blog is because it's something you own. It's something where you can keep your content.
Yes.
So if YouTube goes away tomorrow or Instagram goes away tomorrow, that's something that you own. And you can create a newsletter where you're sending out your content, whereas you can't do that really with Instagram. So I'd start on Instagram for sure. I think that would be, it's the easiest. And there's a lot of us on there, and it's a happy little place.
Yeah. And I would just add, tag the company, because Instagram, even with hashtags, Instagram will limit how many posts you can see with a single hashtag, but they never limit you seeing your tags. And so I always try to tag the company. They'll always see that in their notifications, even if they have notification blindness like me.
That's true.
And then the other thing that I think is really important, and you have to remember I come from a community management standpoint, is for every post that you put out there in the world, if you're posting your blog post, if you're posting your card or whatever, you need to interact with a minimum of 8 other posts. So when you are going out there and saying, here's my card, that's great, you need to go comment on 8 other people's cards. So, because the only way that this works is if we see each other. So you can't just be out there being this one-way street of content. you got to go acknowledge the other creators in the community and do the same thing that you're asking people to do for you. I try to respond to every single comment that I get on YouTube because Mark Montano did that years ago and taught me that that's how you get to know all the people in your community. So I would just add it's really a two-way street. Please go out there and like and share and if you're introverted, you don't have to comment, but like and share the things that you see that you like from other card makers because it only works if we all do it.
True.
And another good point with that is if you want to support a company or an artist, but you're in a place where you can't buy anything, like and share their and comment
Yes.
on their projects. That
Yep.
helps them quite a bit, especially these small businesses. Share their content as much as you can, and it doesn't cost you anything, and that is something that's very helpful. Another thing is I can't find it now, but somebody left the comment that sharing on Instagram, another thing about that is you have all these cards you've made over time. So you can, if you're stumped, you can go back and look at a card that you made and think, oh, I loved doing that idea or using that product, and it reminds you. It's a great way to get your creativity going. And it's also a great way to see how you've kind of changed or progressed or kind of found your own style over time. And that's definitely, I missed who said it, but that's definitely another nice visual of Instagram.
And stories are a really easy way to share. You just hit the share button, share it to your stories. It's the way that I share the most often on Instagram is just share it to my story. You don't even have to type anything. Just if you
Yeah.
see something from Hero that you like, share it to your story. If you see something from Jennifer you like, share it to your story. That just lets more people see it, and it's free and it's fun and keeps people engaged with your account at the same time.
And one more thing, if you're looking to build community and also share and maybe be found, Facebook groups, like I have the Share Handmade Kindness Facebook group, and I know several companies have found people that were sharing and communicating, like they saw them interact really well with others and they liked that energy. And so there are Crafty Facebook groups too, and that's another place that that you can share, meet others, and learn.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, and definitely tag as many as you like. I think that's one of the things. Somebody's asking, what if I have multiple companies on one card? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Tag those companies, interact with those companies, interact with other people who are doing the same. So this is all wonderful advice, and a lot of great comments. People are appreciating it. It's true. The one thing that none of us can control, the algorithms. Sometimes they're
Right.
kind. Sometimes
Yeah, it's
they're
awful.
cruel.
That's why
It's
you
true.
do you.
Yeah,
Yep.
and all of us have to deal with that, and that's
Yep.
okay.
Absolutely.
Because we're all in that same boat, and we can't control. So again, just you do you.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. I think we're starting to wrap this up. There's so many questions. We could go another hour easy talking about reels versus stories. We could go another hour talking about motion. People are asking about, the evolution to class events from, in-store classes. It's come a long way, and it's very, very
Yeah.
different. Hero Arts, for example, has our Stamp Along, which will debut August 22nd when our holiday catalog comes out, which will come out in October, that you can take and be a part of the weekend with Hero Arts. Virtual events are so important, and that'll be our last question. But before we do that, I just want to ask a question of everybody, because this is, as an ode to Lydia, we will briefly go into the crime world. And if you had to guess, and some people are going to know this, some people are not. If Aaron wrote a book, did I write a book A, about sustainability and business, or B, about Alfred Hitchcock? And Mike will now reveal the answer. B.
Yep.
The answer is B. Footsteps in the Fog. A friend of mine and I wrote this book about Alfred Hitchcock. The
Long
ultimate
time ago.
master of suspense. Yes, 2001. So Lydia, to have you on, I just have to say, what are the, your three recommendations for anybody who, like you, loves true crime? Alfred Hitchcock, of course, never said that murder was cool. It was only suspense. That is what he did.
Yeah, I
But true
love
crime,
Alfred
yeah.
Hitchcock.
What true crime do you
So
would you recommend?
I'm a big podcast fan, and I have the disclaimer that I do not care for documentaries about true crime because they tend to not contain the truth. So I tend more towards podcasts and sources of truth that I trust. There's one of my favorite podcasts is called The Prosecutors. It's two prosecutors that teach us about the law, and I love it. I love just learning about the law. So it's not as much just the cases. It's why did these cases go the way they went and what is the law behind it? And it's just fascinating. My second favorite podcast is probably called The Vanish. This is a missing persons case where
Oh yeah.
she just interviews the families. So it's very factual, it's very empathetic, which is my standard for true crime. You have to have empathy. Um, and then I guess what is my third favorite podcast? They're also great. I'm subscribed to like 600 podcasts. But I also like the long form podcasts that are on Audible and Wondery that take a single case and it goes over multiple seasons. Like there's one case that there's 200 episodes on. And I love those long forms. If you have a long drive, if you live in a state like I do and you need, 6 hours worth of content, then some of those are really, really great. There's a great one called The Murder Sheet that's done 200 episodes on the Delphi case that are just phenomenal. And I love
200
trials.
episodes? Wow.
200 episodes on a single case. But what
Wow.
I really like to do while I'm working is I listen to trials. I'm listening to a trial right now. I listen to it all day to day. And I love just the legal process and learning what defense attorneys do and what prosecutors do. And I like seeing the bad guy go to jail. I'm not going to lie. So
Wow.
Jennifer knows
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Every once in a while, I get a text from her about something I got to see.
yes,
Nothing but a link, and that's it.
yes.
She's like, how do you find this stuff?
I do. I'm like, where did you, like, if you Google it, it doesn't pop up.
Right?
But
No,
Lydia will find it. It's
I'm
like,
a different kind of Google altogether.
here's
Yeah.
the thing. If your young adult child is dating someone, have Lydia do a background check on them first.
That's me.
Because
That is
she
me.
will find anything.
That is
I
funny.
I will approve or disapprove for you.
Yes.
It's true.
So
Oh,
I bring all this up because this was the ruse under which that I got Lydia to
it's the only
join
reason I'm
Hanging with
here.
Yeah, it's true.
So I had to have at least 5 minutes of true crime
Yep.
talk, and yeah, Lydia and I have bonded before over kind of suspense and murder mysteries. Given that
Yep.
I've written that book on before my time at Hero Arts, really. Although I was always at Hero Arts because my mom ran that over our house. But before I actually worked full time, I did write that Hitchcock book and have loved true crime and suspense movies ever since. Yes. So thank you for indulging me for a minute, indulging all of us and sharing those. I'm going to check those podcasts out. 600 or 200 episodes for that one that,
Yeah.
like on a long drive, sounds perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
That's funny.
Yes. So to close this out, again, we could talk for hours. Let's just do, a quick on kind of continuously getting inspired and learning. Like Lydia listens to true crime, and that seems to inspire her. Maybe other people have other tools. What tools do you use, Seeka, to kind of find inspiration? Because sometimes, like a question we had last time at the event that Hero Arts had that Seeka was involved in, Stamp Along, one of the questions, which I think is a great one that we should ask again, is what happens if you're not inspired by something, but as a creative team member that you have to use? Like, where do you kind of find that inspiration? Where do you find kind of the kind of excitement Again, don't have to be a creative team member, just kind of in life. Where do you find that excitement to look at it anew, turn it around, and really kind of find your kind of well or source of inspiration that might not initially be there, but how do you find it? How do you kind of prep yourself to find it?
It's a good question because I don't know the answer. So when I get stuck, I just walk away. If I'm feeling stuck, if I'm not feeling it, because for me, it's not a job; it's my hobby, and so I have some luxury to be able to just say, I'm not feeling this right now. I'm going to go have a snack or take a nap, right? Um, so so that's usually what I do, and then I find if I come back rested or with fresh eyes, and just start playing, start stamping things, start making things, then things will come. And Instagram is always a great place to go and see. And sometimes just scrolling and seeing colors or seeing techniques and seeing everyone else's work is always a great way to kind of get back into it. And you might see a technique that you really didn't know about or that looks amazing. There's a lot of I think Natasha's in the chat, but a lot of like multimedia artists or Lydia, right, who do things. I'm like, I can't even understand the layers. Jennifer does layering too. Like I don't have that part of my brain that can think in more than like 2 or 3 layers. But just seeing things that you might not. I don't even know where I'm going with this. Anyway, scrolling. Just scroll Instagram. You'll see lots of cards, lots of ideas, lots of
True.
colors.
Yeah.
That's a good tip.
Yeah.
What about you, Lydia? Other than true crime, what kind of where do you find your inspiration?
Well, it's like I said before, I think people need a win. So I think if you're sitting at your desk and you're not feeling a win, I go somewhere I know I can have a win. So for me, that's gardening. I know I can go
Mm,
outside and have a win. I love gardening. It's one of my favorite things to do. Also, organizing is always a win. You can always, take a little space that you don't like and fix it and, declutter or whatever. That's always a win. So I think you just got to, or cooking for me also. I'm like, that's probably my second biggest hobby. So I
mm.
know I can win in the kitchen. So I just go win in the kitchen. And then when I come back, I can win here again. So the taking a break is important, but I also think you need a win. So you need to go to something where you can have success and then you'll come back happier and less burdened by feeling like you failed at something.
Got it.
Lydia, you need a podcast, and I will
Yeah.
subscribe.
Yeah. Me
That's
too.
and what you said about organizing for me, that's so true. Like I
Yeah.
will sit here
Yeah.
and like roll paper and like put rainbows up, and that's
Yeah.
always yeah.
Yeah. Your space is so beautiful.
So
So
Lydia, I've seen this girl on Instagram. I don't follow her, but I've seen her before. She does makeup. She does like unbelievable makeup, and while she's doing it, she tells a true crime story. You
Yes.
need
I've
to
seen
just
her.
make
Oh my gosh.
cards, and while you're making cards, you're just telling us a true story,
Yes.
and we would all watch. Please.
I could tell you about my squirrels.
Well, no
Nice.
true
That's
crime.
true.
We want true crime. So,
Oh yeah, I did. And when I was doing my lives, we talked a lot about true crime. I had a
yeah.
big true crime following there. I was on a true crime podcast last week, I think. I'll have
Huh.
to send you a link. Yeah.
Yes. All
So,
right. So watch for that. Just Google
yeah.
Lydia True Crime. If you're interested, you can
It was
kind of
called
see her.
True Crime The Roundup with Mike. I was interviewed about the Alec Baldwin case, which you can imagine
Oh,
I had some feelings about. So,
sure.
Oh. I'll text you
Jennifer's
later.
like Jennifer's texting me right now.
That's
So,
great.
yeah. But go for the win. Find a win. I mean, you should do that anyway, whether you're a crafter or not. You got to find a win. Like life is hard. Go find a win.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good tip.
Great tip. Life's tip. I think that's a good tip for life. I'm a little OCD, so organizing, if things
Yeah.
are kind of out of place, that
It
really
helps.
kind of, yeah, it
Yeah, it's
calms my mind.
soothing.
Yeah. I get
Yeah.
disorganized in my mind, and if I organize my
Yeah.
space, it kind of comes together with more clarity. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are good tips. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for joining another episode with Hanging with Hero. We could go on and on,
Forever.
but I really enjoy talking with you, Seeka. I really enjoy kind of hearing your stories. Lydia, it's just tons of fun to have both of you. Jennifer, as always, it's an honor to host with you.
Yes.
And thank you all for joining us tonight. We will be here next week, as I mentioned, and more episodes to come. Really, it was a lot of fun to have both of you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
ladies. Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah.
Bye,
Thank you,
all.
Jennifer.